You're listening to Journey to Truth podcast.
All right, welcome to Journey to Truth podcast. My name's Tyler Koala with Aaron Kuhn, and tonight we have Joseph Irwin with Cosmic Embassy. Joseph, I've been following his research for a couple months now. I'm still fairly new to his work, but I love some of the stuff that he's turned up, and Aaron and I are both super excited to have him on. He's done some fascinating research on a lot of stuff that some people haven't touched on. So let's just get started with it. How's it going, Joseph? You want to tell us a little bit about how you came into doing all this?
Sure. Hey, everybody. This is Joseph Irwin with the Cosmic Embassy. And I've been just on an incredible journey the last 8 years. And just to super summarize it, I had this crazy powerful awakening in November 2010, out of nowhere. I was living really unconsciously. I was kind of pessimistic, very much in the logical kind of when you die, it goes black, there's nothing beyond life. I was in that kind of mentality, which is unbelievable now, but that's where I was at. And then I started researching UFOs and extraterrestrials, and I got just really interested in the subject. And then the first one I found was Billy Meyer, who is claimed to be a Pleiadian contactee. And I wasn't quite sure if I believed him, but it was just really fascinating. He claimed to be picked up in a spaceship and have all these contacts with these Pleiadian people, and it really intrigued me. So I kept looking into the subject, and then maybe a month or two later, I found just randomly on YouTube this guy named Alaje777, ALAJE777. Highly recommend anybody who's listening to this to go and find Alaje. And I found this guy's videos, and he claims to be a Pleiadian from the Pleiadian star system, and he has his consciousness split into two. One is in a spaceship above the earth, and one is here in body. And I was listening to this just as a complete novice. I'd never heard of New Age, or I've never heard of really extraterrestrials and the concept of them already communicating to us. It was all very, very new to me. And I found this guy's videos on YouTube, and it just completely blew my mind, completely opened my heart and everything. I can't express to you enough how much it changed my life. I cried. I bawled my eyes out for 2 days straight watching this guy's videos. I watched all of them. There was 13 at the time. Now there's 20 something. I cried my eyes out for 2 days straight. Literally, I said I'd never meet again. I'd never cut my hair again. I haven't. I shaved my head right before that, and I haven't cut it since then. And my roommate was like, "What is up with you, man?" I was like, "You can have all my meat in the fridge. You can I'm not smoking anymore. I'm not drinking anymore. I'm not playing video games anymore." I literally, my whole previous life, I just threw in the garbage can. And a month later, I left my dog, my job, and my girlfriend, and I went and moved into a Tibetan Buddhist temple and monastery. And literally night and day, I became obsessed with crystals. I had no interest in crystals before this, just out of nowhere. And then I really dived into kind of I guess you'd say the New Age movement and extraterrestrials, and also law of attraction. And right off the bat, I found Abraham Hicks, which I don't know if, are you guys familiar with Abraham Hicks at all?
Oh yeah. She was a part of my awakening as well.
Yeah.
Early on.
Yeah, so I found it was so crazy, in the way, I hear other people's stories and how it took them this, it was this long process of awakening. And it's really interesting for me because mine was like, dude, I was hit by like a freight train. Like it was just like, bam. Like one day I was living totally unconscious. The next day I'm like awake and I'm like meditating and I'm like covering myself in crystals and like projecting myself outside the body. Dude, I felt like I was timed. Like it was just like the exact right timing and I like came out of the shell or something.
It almost sounds like you were activated.
Yeah. Major activation. And it felt, and I want to say this, I think this is really beautiful. I got the definite sense that like I was waking up because of the powerful momentum that other humans in our collective on Earth had put forward, for years or even decades. I think back to like the light workers of, like the 70s and the 80s and the 90s and leading up to 2000, like all these people who were dedicated and meditating and already knew there was ascended masters and beings of the universe. And they were really bringing forth this momentum. And it was like, just all of a sudden, I just caught that wave that they were building. And it was just like, bam, like the light turned on and hasn't turned off. And the last 8 years has just been a crazy journey of unfolding.
Yeah, you just hit that point in your soul contract. You're like, all right, here's the next check. Check this one off the list.
Yep. So I found pretty immediately, like, and now I'm really familiar with law of attraction and universal mechanics, and that's something we'll go into if you guys want to. But I knew that now, like in retrospect, I know that my vibration, like the song of my being, if you will, it changed so dramatically that like everything I was doing and even the people I was hanging out with, the job I had, like everything that I was doing before that moment, like became irrelevant. And it was like oil and water. Like it like wouldn't stick on me anymore. Like I left everything because it was just completely irrelevant, It
just didn't matter to you anymore at all.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah.
Yeah. I'm sure that resonates with you guys too.
Yeah. Mine was nowhere near that extreme or that.
Yeah. Mine either.
But yeah, drawn out a little bit more. I can definitely relate to that. Like things that used to matter so much to me just stopped mattering, and I stopped caring.
Totally.
So much BS that I used to care about, and I started my desire for truth and for love started outweighing my desire to fit in or to be accepted. Basically, that was a big.
Yeah, great observation, great point.
That's
beautiful. Why I would, a lot of the stuff I started getting into, I'm like, man, if I start talking about this, people are gonna think I'm weird or crazy, or they're not gonna get it.
You just have to go all in. Just go
all in. Then it didn't matter anymore.
I just stopped caring. I'm like, I just don't care anymore. Like, yeah. And I used to be a hardcore Christian. Actually, I grew up in a Christian family, and
I was. As well.
Did you? Nice. I grew up Baptist actually, and
Westboro Baptist.
Not that kind. We weren't extremely racist, nowhere near that, but it was still like conservative, whatever. Definitely anything New Age was pretty much shunned.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I know exactly.
Or possibly demonic. I kind of had those beliefs, kind of like.
Totally. Yeah, I wasn't allowed to watch Scooby-Doo. That's some
really.
That's some Damon stuff right there.
Yeah.
This movie. There was this movie called Christine about a car that would kill people. I don't know if you guys have seen it.
No.
It just like came to life and drove around and ran people over or whatever. And I just thought it was cool as a kid, but I was not allowed to watch that either. It's just funny that we all had this one thing we weren't allowed to watch. And Scooby-Doo, that's a little extreme, but hey, what was your awakening? So kind of fitting.
Yeah, they ended up softening up, and and I know that the contrast in our life is essential for our expansion, and because I had like a really strict upbringing, like in the beginning, that led me to like swing towards like just being totally wild and like lawless. And like then not believing in it and not having faith in anything. And then after I had kind of soaked in that for years, then I went and had my own like genuine, like personal spiritual awakening, that's how it was supposed to happen for me, you know, because then I knew nobody was telling me like, oh, you should believe this or believe that. Like once I knew some things, I could never look back, you know, because it was just so, it was crazy. Like, I guess the best way I can say it is like, I went my whole life, like being kind of skeptical, like even of the church and, you know, skeptical of what I was being taught from school and skeptical of what I was being taught by my parents. And then when I had that awakening, like I knew it was true. I think it was maybe the first thing in my entire life that I knew for sure was true when I listened to a lie. And it was,
you just have this inner knowing.
Yeah. And that was an incredible feeling, like to go for your whole life not really knowing anything and then being like, oh, this is for sure true. Of course the universe is full of life. Of course there's intelligent beings who are already here and are watching everything, and they're just like blown. Of course, like it just like all clicked into place. But yeah, right after that, I found Abraham Hicks because I shifted my vibration so much that I started to magnetize and attract different people and places and things. I moved into this Tibetan Buddhist monastery, and before I went to the Tibetan Buddhist place, I was walking through Barnes and Noble, if anybody still knows what that is.
Oh yeah.
And I was walking through Barnes and Noble, and this has never happened before or since. And this book like fell off the shelf. Like I had to get it, and it was called Atlantis Rising. And it's by this woman, Patricia Corey. And it was just so seemingly random, but now I know nothing's random. But so this book like fell off the shelf, and I got it and I started reading it. And it's like these 6-dimensional beings from the Sirius star system channeled through this woman, Patricia Corey, like talking about like in great detail, like all the different cycles of humanity and like Atlantis and like the rise and fall of Atlantis and its different cycles. And I was starting to get like vivid memories of like my experience there. And I was just like so overwhelmed by it. And then I found Abraham Hicks, like I said, and I brought these teachings with me to the Tibetan Buddhist place. And then I was like soaking in their energy for 6 months. And so that was the beginning of my awakening. The only thing I really kept with me over all these years was Abraham Hicks, because it felt like just gold. Like it felt like wisdom.
He's great.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. It felt like this wisdom that was like lasting. Like so many things I hear are just like it may be relevant for the moment. But I'm really into like the lasting, the golden knowledge, that stuff that is gonna apply like throughout time and space. I want to learn.
Age of wisdom. Exactly.
Mm-hmm. I want to learn that stuff that like I can go off into another solar system and it's still applicable.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, yeah. So let's jump ahead a little bit to some of your more recent research or where this has taken you.
Sure.
So I've been watching a couple of your videos recently. You kind of touched into the Tom DeLonge thing and how that ties in with all the, I guess, the UFO movement, or the awakening movement, disclosure movement, however you want to say it. That Tom DeLonge thing's super interesting. I'd love to hear you give a little input on that.
Sure. Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I became excited about Tom DeLonge. And for anybody who's listening who doesn't know, Tom DeLonge is the former lead singer of Blink-182, which is a world famous band. You've probably at least heard one of their songs, like "Oh, the Small Thing." It's not like, it's not my favorite band or anything, but I recognized him and I knew who he was from my upbringing, watching MTV and all that. And I was stunned that he was, out here allying himself with all these people from the Department of Defense, the CIA, and aerospace design companies, and saying all the stuff I was hearing from Corey Goode and William Tompkins. And I was following David Wilcock for years. He was one of the ones I found pretty swiftly after my awakening. I got his first book.
Yep.
David
he was one of my
Wilcock.
first people I found on YouTube, and I watched every video I could find on YouTube of David Wilcock.
Totally. Yeah, he's been a big part for this whole movement. And because I was following David, then I found Corey pretty much immediately. Like before he was even gone public, I was on the chat rooms with Corey, and now I've met him in real life multiple times, and I consider him a close friend. And it's just incredible to see how it all unfolds. But so I've been like super, super, super fascinated with Corey Good and David Wilcock and William Tompkins in particular.
Same.
And and like I've really dug my claws into it, and I know the whole story about this massive secret space program. And so when Tom DeLonge, this really mainstream recognized public figure, came forward and put out a book called Secret Machines Chasing Shadows, I was like, oh my God, I have to read this book. And just like a couple months ago, I was flabbergasted that nobody had made a video about it yet, and nobody had really connected it to everything else that was going on. And I think that's what like really lit a fire under my butt to like make something really good, because nobody had done it. And I like doing stuff that nobody's done yet, and kind of filling in those disclosure cracks, if you will, just connecting the dots. And so here's what you need to know. Tom DeLonge's working with people in the Department of Defense, CIA, aerospace design companies. He's created an organization called To the Stars Academy of Arts and Sciences. Their public goal is literally to create space travel technology for the public. They did like a crowdfunding campaign to have the public actually pitch in on spaceship technology. And he's got all these legitimate people, quote unquote, from, Lockheed Martin Skunk Works, which is a legendary aerospace design company. And that's like the super secret segment of it. Like the head of Lockheed Martin, this guy, Steve Justice, he retired after like 40 years and joined Tom DeLonge. And that blew my mind.
So I have a question. You don't think that the Tom DeLonge Two Stars Academy is an attempted controlled narrative on the disclosure, maybe focusing more on soft disclosure?
I do actually believe that it is a limited disclosure narrative, and that's why I'm not putting all my cards behind him. However, and I'm glad you asked that question, because I think it's really important to hear this, especially people who are familiar with the whole subject of, like full disclosure and limited disclosure. Basically, the military industrial complex are part of them. The smart ones know the cat's out of the bag. And so they're trying to control the narrative as much as they can. Mm-hmm. And in doing that, they're going to give out information, but they're also going to give out just what they deem is necessary. And there's good and bad to this. And I'm using the good for our movement of full disclosure, because I think it's really important, and I think it's a really powerful tool for us to use. And I know more than most people that it is a limited disclosure narrative, because I've analyzed those books left and right. I've probably read them more than almost anybody. I've read them back and forth, literally took notes on like every single page. And here's what I can tell you. Here's what I can tell you. There's some propaganda in that book, no doubt about it. But here's what else I can tell you. This is the most mainstream disclosure that has ever come forward, backed by some of the most legitimate people, like super respected people, for like Steve Justice and Dr. Hal Puthoff, and I could go on and on and on. So these are some serious people that are coming out and talking about this stuff, and it would be wise for us to listen. I'm not saying we should believe everything they're saying, take it for a grain of salt. But for me, I guess here's what I would want to say. For me, when I put together the testimony of Corey Good, the testimony of William Tompkins, the testimony of Emery Smith, and I add in Tom DeLonge and what he's doing, it creates this unshakable foundation for the fact that this is true. That at the very least, there's massive, extremely advanced projects that are existing right now and have for decades. Like in Tom DeLonge's book, let me just give you a couple bullet points of some of the major disclosures from his books, because it's stunning. It's really stunning stuff. So he talks about the Germans, the Nazis in World War II, creating anti-gravity craft in underground bases throughout occupied Europe. William Tompkins and Corey Goode talk about the exact same thing. He talks about.
I'm actually surprised that was in his book. I didn't know that. I haven't read the books, obviously, but I'm surprised to hear that he put that in there. That's
totally. It's stunning. One of the accounts in the first book is this character named Jersey, and it's this narrative of a Polish Jew who's there when the Nazis invade, and he basically gets taken into an underground base in Poland where they're creating anti-gravity craft. And then when the Germans are defeated in Poland, this character escapes Poland and basically escapes to America, where he joins the U.S. Navy. And then he gets taken with the U.S. Navy because of the knowledge that he has, because he's already seen the German craft in these underground bases in Poland. The U.S. Navy recognizes his value, and they bring him with them down to Argentina, where they raid a Nazi base in Argentina. And then the Nazis escape. In the story, the Nazis escape from Argentina, and they go to Antarctica. And then this character goes with Admiral Byrd on Admiral Byrd's expedition to Antarctica, and they literally attack a Nazi base in Antarctica. All of this is in Tom DeLonge's book.
Wow. No
idea. It's stunning. It's stunning.
Now I understand why you're able to tie all that together. That's a perfect example of why you need to do your due diligence when you're researching, because I had not read those books, and this is giving me a whole new perspective on how it all ties together. I guess the red flag for me with Tom DeLonge, what kind of turned me away from it, was he was enlisted to help the Hillary campaign. If she got elected, he was going to basically help her bring forward the UFO issue.
Totally.
Then I started thinking, well, why just Hillary? Why would it matter who the president was? Like, so then why wouldn't he help Trump bring it forward? So,
totally.
So then I started thinking, well, maybe there's a controlled narrative. They don't want the full secret getting out. They just want to keep it limited. And that's kind of why we haven't heard a whole lot from To the Stars Academy since
totally
has been elected.
Exactly, but that doesn't mean that you should write off the whole thing. That's
exactly.
That's the error a lot of people make. It's
exactly.
It probably is a limited hangout, partial disclosure thing, but at least the vast majority, I think, of the information is true and is legit. So
totally.
Exactly. It's like he said, don't go all in with it. Yeah.
No, but you shouldn't do that anyway. I mean, you should use discernment with everything anyway.
Yeah, so, exactly.
Yeah, exactly. It shouldn't matter. Just don't stop at the information they're giving you, because, I think a lot of people will do that. They'll be like, oh, okay, so this is what there is, and that's it.
Totally.
It's amazing, but they'll stop there, but a lot of people won't at the same time.
Totally.
And then it's like they're planting the seeds that get a lot of people looking into. Maybe they'll find Corey Goode or William Tompkins or David Wilcock, and then
it's a perfect gateway drug to Corey Goode.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, and I'm not saying that I didn't buy into any of it, but it was just one of the things I noticed.
But yeah, I do think that they were kind of using him as the figurehead for the organization to put out, to kind of steer, because they kind of saw, they're like, all right, disclosures happening, we can't stop that, but we're going to try to steer it to where we want it to go, and kind of slowly, and it's like, okay, that's fine, but people like us, we're going to keep pushing for full disclosure, and
cat's out of the bag.
We'll use what they're giving, and then we'll just expand on it and go from there.
Well, speaking of secret space programs or this technology, I got to ask you, Joseph, you had recently posted that you had a phone call with Dr. Michael Salla, and yes. I was wondering if you could elaborate on that a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, so Michael Salla, I've got a lot of respect for him, and I have met him a couple times, and I kind of knew I was going to work with him in one way or another eventually. But I think it's really William Tompkins that brought us together because we're both really passionate about William Tompkins' story. For me, I knew intuitively Corey Goode was telling the truth the whole time. That's why I was so captivated. Like intuitively, I knew.
Absolutely, me too.
Yeah, me
Yes.
too.
But it wasn't until William Tompkins came out that my logical brain also started to accept that it was totally real. And so then I have my logic, my left and my right brain saying, this is totally real. This is like the most important subject on the entire planet. There's nothing else you could be doing that's more important than this right now.
Amen.
And
Yeah.
that didn't start until William Tompkins came out and I really analyzed everything he said. Because I was blown away when I heard William Tompkins, just from the fact that I 100,000,000% knew that he was legitimate, A, and B, it like fits key in a lock with everything Corey Goode has said. And furthermore, he came out after Corey Goode, and they had no coordination together.
No, he had never heard of Corey Goode.
Yeah, and to me, that's really, really revealing.
And just listening to William Tompkins talk is fascinating in itself. There's so much wisdom there, and you just know this is just so sincere what he's telling.
Totally.
Yeah, and also just the fact that it's, this 94-year-old guy that was in the Navy way long ago and was in these projects.
Well, his credentials, his background supports everything.
Exactly. With his credentials, it's like, why would he come out at his old age and start making up a bunch of stuff with there's no motivation for him to do that, Like, it doesn't make any sense unless what he's saying is just the truth.
Yeah, and furthermore, he claims that that the Navy is vouching for him and condoning that he was coming forward, which is really fascinating. He didn't just go rogue. Like, he was literally asking, like, is this okay? Can I say this? And they're saying, yeah, it's time. Like, he said that his Navy League contact, because he was the head of the Navy League in Medford, Oregon for like a long time. So he's super, super ingrained in these projects. And he said recently that before he passed, he said that they told him, like, tell your whole story. Like, don't leave anything out. Go for it.
And it's a great story.
Yeah.
So what's this?
Getting back to getting back to Sala really quick. So Sala, I've met him a couple times, and every time I met him, I was just really passionate about William Tompkins and saying I really want to make, like some bite-sized versions of that, which I'm working on right now, bite-sized disclosure William Tompkins. And he was super for the idea, and we floated the idea of working with Exo News more than a year ago. And then recently I met him in Washington, D.C. for the Disclosure Fest on 11/11. And at that time, I talked to him about William Tompkins again, and I was asking him about his second book, because Tompkins was planning on writing 3 whole books, and he only got 1 out before he died, unfortunately.
Yeah, I heard that.
But Dr. Wood, who was a colleague of him, they both worked at Douglas Aircraft Company. Dr. Wood and his son have been finishing the second book, basically. And so that's what I was specifically calling Dr. Sala about, is I really want to help Dr. Wood complete the second book or create videos about the second book, or I just really wanted to help in any way I could to get the message of William Tompkins out, because to me, it is the most airtight testimony that has ever come out, and it is the most revealing and expansive, and it completely corroborates everything Corey Goode's saying, everything Emery Smith is saying by extension, and it kind of fills in all of the limited disclosure gaps from Tom DeLonge's work. And it's pretty stunning how it fits in with Tom DeLonge's work. But then also they both have different aspects that the other doesn't have, which is why I'm really passionate about putting the whole picture forward. So anyway, I was talking to Sala, and I was like, yo, you should let me help Dr. Wood, get me in touch with them. And he's like, yeah, I think they have enough help right now, but I would love it if you would help me with Exo News. So basically, I'm becoming a contributor for Exo News. I'm writing an article and doing some videos for him right now.
Nice.
And so, yeah, you guys will be seeing that going forward, which
That's
is
incredible.
Yeah,
Amazing, man.
yeah, it's really
Nice.
great. So really quick, I want to tell you guys, because some of your listeners might not hear this anywhere else. I want to tell you some more of the disclosures from Tom DeLonge's book and kind of how it all relates. So
Sure.
one of the things that blew my mind was actually in the second book, how much they start to talk in detail about extraterrestrials. So we have this account of the Nazis going to Germany, going to Antarctica, yada, yada, yada. We've heard all that from William Tompkins, which is incredible. But some of the other stuff that's in the book is the United States government or parts of it having super advanced flying craft. Some of them are consciousness controlled, like no joystick, no nothing, like fully tapped into your consciousness. This is in
Yep.
Tom DeLonge's book. And they talk about Possum Plant, which is a secret base in Nevada. And they call it the Possum Plant because possums are really good at playing dead. And so they talk in detail about these secret facilities that create advanced aerospace craft and just a ton of secret technology in Nevada, which we've heard from many people, Area 51, Papoose Lake, etc. And then we also talk about, I was really stunned how much they actually started talking about extraterrestrials, because I thought he was going to leave it really vanilla and kind of generic, but they actually went into great detail. They talk about how there's positive and negative extraterrestrials. One of the most stunning parts of the second book, which is called Secret Machines of Fire Within, is this account from 1947. And keep in mind, at the beginning of these books, they say, and he says in no uncertain terms, that this is a fictionalized version of real events, meaning they took real things that happened and they just kind of jumbled it up a bit so that they could tell people without breaking security clearances. And one of the accounts is from 1947 in Argentina. A member of the newly created CIA, because before 1947 it was called the National Intelligence Authority, and in 1947 they created the Central Intelligence Agency, which everyone knows today. Anyway, so a member of this newly minted CIA goes down to Argentina, is chasing a Nazi who was hiding down there, and he finds him. He waits for him in his hotel room. He waits for the Nazi in his hotel room, and then he basically captures him and says, hey, you're going to go with me and you're going to work for the U.S. military, or I'm going to kill you, like right here and right now. Like, those are your options. And he says, we know that he says basically, we know that you guys are brilliant, and for all your brilliance with rockets and jets, we know that you didn't create all this technology on your own. And he slides him a picture of the Roswell crash and said, is this one of yours? Which I thought was stunning, because I'd never heard anything anywhere suggesting that the Roswell crash was actually related to the Nazis.
No,
And
I haven't heard that either.
I haven't heard that either, no.
Yeah, I hadn't heard it anywhere until Tom DeLonge's book, but it does fit in with everything else we've heard. And here's the really stunning part, is he says, we know for all of your skill that you had help. Like, there's no way basically you developed this all on your own.
No.
And he says, I want to tell you that you're not the only one getting help. And I think you'll find that our respective helpers don't like each other very much. That's almost a direct quote that I'm just taking out of memory. And it's really stunning, because what he's saying is this CIA guy in 1947 is interrogating this Nazi and is saying, hey, we have help from extraterrestrials, and we know you have help from extraterrestrials, and I want you to know that our extraterrestrials don't like each other. And that fits in perfectly with William Tompkins, who said the Navy and the U.S. intelligence was working with certain extraterrestrials, like you could say the Nordics or whatever. And then the Nazis were working with reptilians. And in the book, it alludes to them working with reptilians. It doesn't say, it says everything but that. And it also alludes to insectoid beings, like really, really, really strongly, like over and over and over again. They reference insectoid, swarm. They say the word swarm like probably 500 times in that book, how all the negative extraterrestrials are this hive mind type of swarm type of entities. And they talk about these like supranational organizations that are creating their own secret space program, and they're like influencing politics and just super powerful, infinite money. Like they talk about all this in Tom DeLonge's book, and it's really, really stunning stuff. The last thing I want to say before you guys jump in, because I want to let you guys talk, is at the end of the first book, get this. This is one of the things that has really stuck with me. At the very end of the first book, the CIA guy, one of the CIA guy, takes one of the main characters who's this pilot who flies these unconventional craft. They take him down to this underground base. They put him on a railway tram, an underground railway tram. And he goes to this secret location, and he sits down at a table with this CIA guy. And the CIA guy basically says, the Greek gods were real. They were extraterrestrials. We have some of their technology, and they never left.
Wow. Boom, mic drop.
Yeah.
And I've heard that from numerous accounts. All the Greek gods and any of the gods from our history were extraterrestrials. And I think if you do your research, and you'll come to that conclusion as well.
Totally.
Oh yeah.
So it's crazy to hear that from Tom DeLonge and by extension, these like super credentialed sources. He's working with people like that are fresh out of the DoD and Lockheed Martin, and it's just to me, it's really irresponsible to just throw everything Tom DeLonge's doing in the trash. And that's actually one of the few things. It's actually to be honest, it's one of the few things that Corey and David Wilcock have done in the last couple of years that really pissed me off. When they basically told all their followers, like, Tom DeLonge is trash. Like, it's just a propaganda deception. Like, don't even look at it. Yeah. And I was, like, kind of incensed by that because, you should use discernment. But by doing that, A, they're not allowing people to look into this information, or they're actually discouraging them. And B, they're actually, in a way, they're actually not delegitimizing themselves, but they're removing another leg of a tripod, if you will, that makes their story stand up. Because I'm using this stuff to legitimize Corey Goode. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And they were thinking of it as a threat, but I'm here to tell you it's not a threat. It actually is a huge boon to the disclosure movement, because they're trying to control this narrative, but they can't control it. The more information they put out in that legitimate kind of way, the cat's out of the bag, man. We won. Full disclosure is here. It's just a matter of time.
Exactly. And they're right in one sense that it is a partial disclosure push, but don't discourage people from looking into it or supporting it, because anytime you see a partial disclosure kind of push going on, like you said, just use it to legitimize the other people and the full disclosure movements, and say, look, here's sources from the CIA and the DoD and these high level backing to this. Look what they're saying, and then relate that to what Corey Goode and William Tompkins are saying, and then you can kind of like try to
make sense of it all.
Yeah, exactly. But at the same time, you can be like, all right, it does appear to be a controlled partial disclosure, so be aware.
Be cautious, for sure.
Yeah, be cautious, because they very well will be saying some things that are not true.
There is some propaganda. Having said all that, there is some propaganda.
Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater is essentially what it is. Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, one of the things I'm thinking about right now as you guys are talking, maybe the reason that Corey and David and whoever else saw him as a threat might not have been because of Tom DeLonge, but it might have been the picture that no one was seeing, the behind the scenes picture that was controlling Tom DeLonge. Maybe they know something about that we don't.
Totally.
That you know what I mean?
Yeah,
There
totally.
could be something going on there because
It is
that's
the deep
and that's
state.
why you really need to use your discernment, because
Yeah,
there could be some shady stuff.
there is some
behind the
shady
scenes.
stuff. Let me say this though. I'll just say this really plain and clear. This is the deep state.
Yeah.
This is the deep state who's backing Tom DeLonge. But, and this is a
Correct.
big but, if this is what the deep state is saying,
Yeah.
can you imagine how far along this disclosure path we already are? If this is what the controlled narrative is saying, they're saying extraterrestrials are real. They're all throughout our history. You know,
Yeah.
in the beginning of the second book, they literally say that language on Earth came from extraterrestrials. Like language itself
Wow.
was seeded from extraterrestrial. This is from the deep state through
And
Tom
what-
DeLonge.
And what does it tell you about how desperate the deep state is right now? If they feel like they have no other choice than
They have to give so much away.
than to put out all this crazy hidden truth out
Totally.
there just because they feel like they have no other choice to do that, to try to control the narrative and to contain it a little bit, because they know it's coming. They know they can't stop disclosure, so they're doing all these last ditch efforts. They're like, well, it's happening, so we need to do everything we can to control the narrative as much as possible and to contain it into this partial disclosure that we want, that will hopefully keep us in power still. You know, we're not, because they still don't want to release all the free energy and all the stuff that'll make their control system obsolete.
well, that's what Emery Smith talks about. He said they don't care if we talk about ETs and UFOs.
Yeah.
We can do that all day long. That's old news. It's when you start getting into the free energy, the stuff that's really going to start to make them lose control, you know?
Yeah, that's what
Totally.
they're terrified about, because their whole control system is based on scarcity and money and all these structures that you're not supposed to know that free energy exists. You're not supposed to know that we don't need all that stuff, and that
Totally.
we could have access to all those amazing technology that's being kept from us, because
Exactly.
as soon as
Here you
people
go.
find out about that, they're going to demand it, because why wouldn't we
Here we go,
demand it
you
if
guys.
we know about it?
I'm gonna give you the smoking gun, and then we should talk about it. Okay. I've got Tom DeLonge's second book in front of me, Secret Machines: A Fire Within, Tom DeLonge, AJ Hartley, and I've turned to page 546. If anybody wants to know more about this, watch my YouTube channel, Cosmic Embassy, #Cosmic Embassy. But here you go. This is what you need to hear. This is the definitive proof that Tom DeLonge is a limited hangout disclosure propaganda, and basically they are trying to cover up crimes that happened in the past. I'm just going to read this and then we'll talk about it, okay? So here's the setup. One of the characters is being interrogated in the book, and she got abducted by fake aliens before. She got abducted by humans that were pretending to be aliens, and they did a genetic experiment. Yeah, my God. Did a genetic experimentation on her. And the guy who's interrogating her is asking, who are these people that did this genetic experimentation on you? And she says, I don't know. But, I don't think they go by national borders. So I'm going to read this to you. So nationality, she says, in spite of herself, Tamika actually laughed. You think that matters? She said. And the interrogator says, do I think the United States should pay attention to guarding its sovereign soil from foreign incursions? Yes, he said mockingly, don't you? And she says, I think you have no idea what you're up against, she said. But do you? He said. No, she admitted, not really. But I'm pretty sure they don't define themselves by lines on a map. Meaning, he said, not all our enemies think of themselves as nation states. And that's all true. That's really good disclosure. But get this. He said, recovering his wry amusement. This is some leftist screed against global capitalism and corporate power. I should have expected as much. Isn't it strange how selective you people are with your conspiracy theory busting? Is the government also dousing its populace with chemtrails and operating a child sex operation out of a basement of a DC pizza parlor?
No way.
Yeah, dude. And then she says, don't be absurd. Like, all that's crazy. And then he says, but you expect me to believe in your tales of multinational conspiracies? And then she says, false logic. Tamika shot back, doubting one piece of received wisdom that everyone else accepts as true doesn't mean you doubt everything you're told. So don't lump me in with the crazies. I have come to believe in some things most people would think are nuts. Doesn't mean I think the earth is flat or that climate change is a hoax perpetrated by the Chinese. So you're a selective skeptic, best kind. So I'm just going to leave it at that. But dude, when I read that page, I almost cringed to death because I was like, why did you do it, Tom? Why? Why did you do it? Like, this is so clearly like some heavy propaganda. So just to break that down a little bit, like they're putting forth like some good information. Like, okay, these people don't, they don't define themselves by lines on a map. They don't think of themselves as nation states. That's totally true. But then they say, like, this is all crazy. Is the government dousing its population with chemtrails and operating a child sex operation out of a basement of a DC pizza parlor? And she says, don't be absurd. And the thing that's really crazy about this, for maybe someone who's listening and doesn't really know, is that Tom DeLonge has direct ties to John Podesta. And John Podesta's emails getting hacked by WikiLeaks was the whole reason the Pizzagate scandal got started, because he was saying all this super, super sketchy stuff. And I'm not even going to say, Pizzagate is real or it's not real. I'm not going to get involved in that because I'm staying neutral on everything that I can, because I'm just bringing forth the disclosure information. But I will say this. I've read every single WikiLeaks email, especially ones that were related to John Podesta and Tom DeLonge. And the emails that came out from John Podesta are extremely, extremely suspicious and really, really sketchy.
And he talks in the code, it uses all the code words.
Totally. And like, if he wasn't talking in code, like, so much of the things he said make no sense at all.
Yeah. Do you think I'd have better luck playing dominoes on cheese or on pasta? Was one of them. Yeah, it's like. Put that, like,
isn't that
how
what
does
Trump
that make
does with
any
tweets?
sense outside of that?
Yeah. So I'm not gonna. We shouldn't get into Pizzagate, but I just want to say that this is obvious. Like, it doesn't make sense with the rest of the book at all, and this is obviously a cover up for John Podesta. Like, it's obviously Tom DeLonge covering for John Podesta, and you have to ask yourself why. Why would he feel a need to do that? You know what I mean? And if you go ahead.
Yeah. Well, just to either save his ass or because that's part of the program that he's been given. Like, hey, you can do this, but you can't
control the narrative.
Yeah,
exactly. And then it's like bringing up this, and it's so crazy because like a lot of people would think everything Tom DeLonge is saying is crazy or a conspiracy or blah, 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 blah. And then he's making a whole nother layer of like, oh, those people are conspiracy theorists. Like, don't listen to them. That's crazy, So, I mean, that little portion right there to me is the smoking gun, because it literally is saying, you know what I mean? We want to tell you about some advanced technology, but not all of it. We want to tell you about some extraterrestrial, but not all of them. But we also want to cover up potential crimes that happened in the past. And that's literally exactly what Corey Goode said that they were trying to do, that they were trying to avoid being persecuted. Corey Goode basically said, for those who aren't familiar, he said that these guys are trying to create a limited disclosure narrative wherein a lot of these people who've committed crimes against humanity, they're going to escape justice because they're either going to get away or the narrative will be controlled, or by the time it all comes out, they'll be so old that they died. And that's
why they're wanting
exactly what they're setting up with this book. Like, exactly. So anyway, that's all I got to say.
Yeah. So it just corroborates Corey Goode. Yeah, because it's exactly what he said they were trying to do.
Totally. Yeah. So in that sense, I totally understand why he would steer people away from the books. But having said that, everything I said before still stands. It really does corroborate and bring more legitimacy in my mind to William Tompkins and Corey Goode and Emery and all of them. And it's an important piece of the puzzle. We're not going to get full disclosure by just looking at the pieces that we want to look at. You know, we got to look at everything.
Exactly.
Everything. All aspects of it. And in all aspects of it. And even like you said, the Tom DeLonge stuff you were talking about earlier, about you couldn't believe all this stuff was in the book. And that is all great information, even if it's just planting a seed into the subconscious or just introducing you to something you may have never thought of. Like, that's all crucial to anyone. But like, I think Jace put it last week, like intro awakening stuff. Like it's good stuff to really start to trigger something in you to lead you down that path.
Yeah, we talked about
Totally.
Stephen Greer kind of the same way.
Yeah, Greer's interesting. I actually met him after DC Disclosure Fest. I went and stayed with Justin Deschamps, the founder of Stillness in the Storm.
Love Justin.
I went and stayed at his house for like a week. I was like, I hit him up and I was like, bro, after Disclosure Fest, I'm just gonna come stay with you. I'm just gonna come stay at your house. And he's like, all right, sounds good. And so that was a really good time. And we actually, believe it or not, like, get this, Justin Deschamps and I are hanging out, just like no plan whatsoever. We're just hanging out and we're like, yo, let's go get some coffee. And so we drive to his favorite local coffee shop, like literally right down the street from Justin's house. And we walk into the coffee shop and Stephen Greer is there.
What?
He's in the coffee shop ordering
No
coffee.
way.
Like, we literally just walked right up to him. It was so divine timing. It was incredible.
Wow, that's crazy. Yeah.
And so, yeah, we had a conversation. It was actually really funny, though, because he didn't know who we were. He didn't know, the kind of circles we're in. So it almost felt like we were undercover, because if he knew who we were and kind of the information that we're putting forward, he might not have been so friendly to us.
Yeah.
But he was friendly. He was a really interesting guy. I've always been kind of sketched out by his energy. He kind of reminds me of a reptilian, but that's neither here nor there.
Yeah.
I like everything he's doing for the most part.
Yeah, I look at him the
he
same
said
way. I think he, whether he's in on it purposefully or he's being kind of used, I still haven't fully made up my mind yet. But either way, I think he's kind of pushing this partial disclosure thing, and just the fact alone that he
Yeah, let's talk about that for a second. And here's
a huge red flag.
He also says, and he also said in his latest interview, they said, "I'd rather have the secrecy continue."
Yeah.
Did he really?
Yeah, you didn't hear that? Like, he was talking about if they're going to start bringing forward the narrative that there's a possibility of negative ETs, then he would rather have the secrecy continue.
Wow, well, that says it all right there.
Exactly.
Yeah.
This actually brings me perfectly into one of the other things I want to talk about, though, which is the fractal universe. So this is really important for anybody who may listen to this. One of the things that I've really focused in on, and this is really powerful, is how can I determine if something's true without anybody else and without any evidence even? And it's because the universe is a fractal. And if you're not familiar, whoever's listening, if you're not familiar with the term fractal, you really need to learn it, because it's like the key that unlocks the universe. A fractal is a pattern that repeats infinitely larger and infinitely smaller. And the reason we focus on fractals is because the universe is a fractal. It's an infinitely repeating pattern. And what that means is if we're observing the patterns all around us, in front of us in our daily life and our body and our society, we're actually able to determine a lot of the really, really huge things that are going on in the universe, because everything's a reflection of everything else. So by observing my body and how my body operates, then I can start to observe actually how the universe operates. And so the reason I bring this up when I'm talking about Stephen Greer is just feel into this. How do I know? I know for certain that there are negative extraterrestrials. And how do I know that? Because I observe nature. And in nature, there are predatory beings and there's non-predatory beings. And to one creature, another creature may be negative, but to another creature, that creature may be essential for life. And so in that sense, negative is just relative. But are there predatory beings in the universe? Yes, absolutely. Of course there are. Are most of the beings in the universe negative and predatory? No. In nature, most of the creatures are not predatory, but they are part of the whole symbiotic cycle of life and death. So that's when I started to hear about, reptilian beings in space. I wasn't looking at other people's evidence. I wasn't looking at what other people said. I was looking inside myself and saying, all right, so these people say there's reptilian predatory type beings in space. That really actually makes sense with my own internal discernment and understanding of the universe, because I know there's predatory beings in nature on the planet. And it makes sense that everything that's occurring here on the planet, there is an infinite extension out into the universe. And that also is one of the best things I can tell anybody about extraterrestrials, is if you want to understand extraterrestrials, just understand that at the very least, there is an infinite extension of every single archetype, every single pattern of plant, of animal, of reptile, of jellyfish, of vertebrate, invertebrate, mammal, of every single thing you see on this planet. There exists an infinite extension out into space. So I could literally name off anything on this planet, and I guarantee you that somewhere in the universe there exists a super advanced version. So it might sound funny, but I can say, there's super advanced space pandas flying around in spaceships. There's super advanced space giraffes. There's super advanced space squids. There's super advanced space koalas. There's super advanced space lizards. Of course, there's super advanced space monkey people. There's super advanced.
All of them, yeah.
Yeah, all of them. Space fish, space, everything.
Yeah.
And so
it does sound crazy to some. It does sound crazy to someone who hasn't heard this at all, honestly.
Totally.
But and when you listen to whistleblowers and insiders come forward, and certain people have experiences with different beings, and they describe these beings, and you get the ant people, the elephant, and it's the same thing. An ant, and you have the intelligent version, and an elephant, same thing. And if you buy into any one of those stories, you got to start thinking about the bigger picture, like you said. And it does sound far out there, but you have to really start corroborating everything, like you said, and it does start to make sense.
Totally. That's why when I heard Emery Smith saying, hey man, I've dissected thousands of different specimens of every different kind of extraterrestrial you could imagine. To someone who's never heard this before, they'd be like, that's insane. But someone like me who knows beyond any doubt, there's not a single doubt in my mind that the universe is a fractal. And therefore, like I just said, every pattern that exists on the earth, at the very least, there must be an infinite extension of those out in the cosmos. So when I heard Emery Smith say that, I was like, yeah, of course, that makes perfect sense. That makes totally jives with my understanding.
And that's what's beautiful about all this, and you've mentioned this earlier, is how everything ties together. Like, there's truth behind it because everything just lines up perfectly.
Yeah.
If you're researching and following the right people.
Totally.
I think, and that's when you say if you're just guided by your intuition, that's the key. That's the key to really understanding what's true.
Yeah, using your intuition and your inner knowing, and then supplement that with the testimony of all these different people, and you'll start to just get the truth. You'll
falls into your lap.
Yeah. You'll get the full picture of the truth. You'll start getting it, and without even really trying, because you're using your own discernment and your own intuition, and you'll start to just hear the truth, and you just know it, as soon as you hear it. And then you can even go and logically look at all the evidence that's out there, and then all the testimony that all lines up. It's like, okay, Corey Good said this, and then William Tompkins came out and said the same thing, and then this person came out and said the same thing, and this person said the same thing 30 years ago, before the internet was even really a thing. And it's like,
and none of them knew each other prior to it.
And then David Wilcock was saying Okay, when I first was like interviewing Corey Good and getting his story, he was saying all these things that all these different insiders had told me that this information was not out there. So there's no other explanation of how he could know this other than that he himself was an insider.
Totally.
In this program.
Yeah.
Totally. All right, there's one more thing I really want to throw in here that kind of will bring it all together, at least one more thing. And it's this concept that the vibration is steadily rising, and kind of bringing in the concept David Wilcock brought forward about how the entire solar system is increasing its vibration. It's not just the Earth that's heating up. The entire solar system is dynamically changing, and there's evidence from mainstream sources that all the planets in our solar system are going through a massive dynamic change. Mm-hmm. And the reason I'm bringing this up is because everything is connected. Light is information. And as we're moving into this area of the galaxy where it's way more charged with light, i.e. information, we're literally receiving more information. And everything is in these macro cycles and seasons. There's seasons is a fractal concept, meaning, on every tiny little speck of you, like down to your smallest cell, there's seasons that are occurring. And then in the biggest portions of the universe, there's seasons that are occurring. It's this kind of tilt that allows for contrast and different things to occur at different times. And the reason this is important, is because there are these macro seasons that occur that are so big that it's hard for us to even understand with our limited understanding of our history. But now we're beginning to reconnect with all that. And so we're beginning to grasp this again. It's really important to understand. Like, for example, there's these long seasons. Like what if all of human history occurred within all of known human history occurred within a long winter, and we're just now coming into a cosmic spring, and there's literally no precedent in our history. There's no, our grandma, our grandpa, like nobody in our genetic memory, well, not our genetic memory, but nobody in our direct memory could tell us what's coming, because
so
we're in
all we've known is that one season. Yes,
because it's such big seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing I want to tie in here that not many people will say, maybe nobody will say, is that this is directly related to how we're entering the information age. Like, just think back, not that long ago, like most people were completely illiterate. Like, books were only for the noble people and the church.
Mm-hmm.
And the common people didn't even know how to read those funny symbols on the page.
Yeah.
Like, think about that. Now it's more common than not that you can read a book. It's actually weird if you're illiterate now. Just think about that. Like, not too long ago, the books were hidden in the temples and for the aristocrats. And then what happened? The Gutenberg press came out. That was one of those big jumps. And then all of a sudden people could print books. Books are circulating all over the place. They're copying them, and people are reading more and more information. And then we'll fast forward, and then we've got the telephone lines, and then all of a sudden people can call each other all around the world and spread information like instantaneously with the phone. And then fast forward, now you got rudimentary internet in the 90s and then the early 2000s, and people are on dial-up connection, and they're talking to each other instantly all around the world, even though it's slow. And now fast forward to 2019, what's going on, man? I can stream 4K like to Japan, like thousands of times greater information now than even a couple years ago. And the reason I'm bringing this up is twofold. One, I want to say that this whole movement into this information age, this whole movement into the internet and technology, it's not something that's separate from nature, and it's not something that we need to be afraid of. Like, it's literally a movement that is a result. It is a symptom of where we're going in this macro season. It is a symptom of where we're going in the galaxy. It's just like in the springtime, what happens? The ground starts to warm up, more light starts to come in, all the mycelial networks and the mushrooms start to connect, all the roots throughout the forest, and all this information starts to exchange. It's exactly what's happening on the planet right now. And so I like to give it that really holistic view of everything that's occurring. What's happening in the most simple way? Well, information is increasing, light is increasing, the speed at which information is being shared is massively increasing. And the last thing I want to say here is, where does this go next? What is the next jump after this? And I would say that it has to be a massive transportation revolution. And to say it shortly, it's galactic humanity. We have like the next extension of the internet is galactic humanity, meaning you can travel all throughout the solar system at first, and then all throughout the galaxy and beyond, because that is the next network to be fleshed out.
Yeah, we're becoming a galactic civilization finally.
Well, how are we going to do that with fossil fuels?
Yeah,
we
not going to happen with fossil fuels.
Well, the interesting thing about the whole, like you said, the transportation thing, the fossil fuels, we've got to get over that. And I was doing some research, came across the abiotic oil theory. Have either of you heard of this? Maybe not.
Is that the one where they didn't come from dinosaurs?
Yeah, it's essentially saying that crude oil is the result of a naturally occurring and ongoing geological process, as opposed to being. As opposed to being.
So it's not limited at all. And all of the propaganda is about one thing: lack. Lack. There's not enough time. There's not enough space. There's not enough food. There's not enough energy.
And that's part of the whole, like, they've been pushing lack, scarcity, and fear has been the control narrative that they've been pushing for, all of our known history, basically all the control structures and governments.
Yeah, there's scientists saying that this could possibly be the second most abundant source of liquid on the planet, next to water. And
yeah,
I'm not joking. Wow. That's part of the lie. They want us to think that it's scarce.
They want us to think it's really scarce and it'll run out eventually.
They could never use up. They couldn't possibly use it all up because it's naturally occurring. It's not a fossil.
But the funny thing is we don't even need that. We don't even need. It
no, exactly.
We don't even need it with the technology that we actually have.
Exactly. But we're not going to get past that if we're being lied to, and we are.
Totally.
Yeah, we know what's going on behind the scenes right now, but to try and explain that to someone who isn't aware of this it's really difficult.
Oh yeah.
It's getting easier and easier because of the work that we're doing and the momentum that we're pushing forward. So this is a perfect time to tie in where we started with, which was with law of attraction and Abraham Hicks. Just bear with me for one moment. So the thing that's really special about Abraham Hicks and the true teachings of law of attraction, I'm not talking The Secret and, focus and you get $1 million. It's true, you can focus and get whatever you want, but The Secret and a lot of the teachings on law of attraction have been sanitized, and they took non-physical energy out of it. And this is really, I don't want to say unfortunate, but it's robbed a lot of people of the true understanding of law of attraction. And I'll correct that really quick, and because it's really important, and it has to do with what we were talking about, how control is all about lack. So here's the thing I need to say first and foremost that's left out of almost all teachings on law of attraction, that all right, so we have all these senses, right? Like your eyes are interpreting the light around you. Your ears are interpreting the sound of my voice or whatever else is going on wherever you're at. Your tongue is interpreting the vibration of whatever you ate last or just whatever is in your mouth. Your skin is interpreting maybe the temperature and the moisture in the room. And so we have all these senses that are interpreting vibration. Science knows that everything is vibration. And so our senses are these interpreters of vibration. It's how we translate these vibrations into something that we can make sense of, right? And so one of the things that almost nobody knows yet, and this is something I've become obsessed with, and I'm so grateful because it makes everything else make sense, is that we have other senses too. And the one I'm going to talk about right now is what I call the sixth sense, and it's your emotions. Your emotions are not some random thing. Your emotions are your guidance system. Your emotions are telling you right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, right now, every second of every day, your emotions are telling you how much energy you are allowing into your body based on what you're focusing on and how you're focusing on it, and how that focus jives with the source of your consciousness, basically. And the source of your consciousness is infinite intelligence. The source of your consciousness is pure love. It's pure inspiration. It's pure well-being. It's pure abundance. And anytime you're thinking and focusing in that direction, you're going to feel positive emotion. And all positive emotion is your sixth sense literally telling you that you are in harmony, you are in resonance with the source of your consciousness. And this is huge when you really start to understand it, because you realize that I'm not a victim of anybody else. Nothing outside of me is controlling my emotion. Everything that's happening to me is as a result of my focus. And not only that, I have this guidance system in real time, like a GPS, telling me right now, 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 how in alignment I am with the source of my consciousness. And that's telling me basically how swiftly and directly I'm heading towards that which is wanted for me. And this is huge. And the reason I bring this up to tie it all together is because when people are feeling negative emotion, what they're feeling is lack. They're feeling literally resistance. And they say that people who understand electrical engineering know more about the universe than almost anyone. And it's because it's an electric universe, at least for the most part. And your consciousness is very similar. So if you have resistance in a wire, for example, like an electrical wire, if you have resistance, it creates heat energy. And that heat energy will destroy the wire. That's exactly what's happening with humans. They get resistance and it starts to destroy their body. This is where all sickness comes from. This is where anything that we call negative comes from resistance, period, end of story. It's really, really, really simple. And anything that we call as positive or something that good that happened to you, or when you have like that incredible timing, when you talk to that right person at the right time who says the right thing at the right moment, and it leads you to meeting that right person, when everything synchronizes like that, that is your evidence that you are directly tied in to the source of your consciousness. Synchronicity is a natural result of tying into the source of infinite intelligence that is behind the window of your eyes. And the reason this whole concept of lack is so important to understand and start to step away from is because they know this. The controllers know this. The reptilians, whatever you want to call them, it's not just reptiles. There's many, many different ones that wish to control, and that's okay, because that's part of our collective growth. It's part of the contrast that helps us to decide that we don't want to be controlled, we want to be sovereign, etc. But what they use is that understanding. They understand emotions, and that's why all the media and all the movies and all the music is trying to get you in a low vibration, is trying to get you in a feeling of lack, because they know that when you're cut off from the source of your consciousness, you're really easy to control. And this is one of the most important things that we can focus on right now.
Yeah. That was beautiful and very well said. Thank you for that.
So absolutely, yeah.
It's all about abundance. And if you just and here's the other thing is there are these fractal concepts. So if I could give you some just golden wisdom, one of them is that your emotions are not some random thing. They are your guidance system. Not only pay attention to them, but understand it's all a result of your focus. If you're focusing in a direction that feels good, that means you're focusing in the direction of the source of your consciousness. If you're focusing in a direction that does not feel good, it means you're focusing in a direction that your source simply is not going to focus on, and therefore you're losing that energy from that connectedness with your source. And the other fractal concept that's really important to understand is, well, first off, law of attraction is gravity. We've all been taught about gravity our whole life. Gravity and the law of attraction are the same thing. And I've not heard anybody else talk about this yet, and I can't wait to make a video about it. Gravity and law of attraction are the same exact thing. Gravity is matter attracts matter. Law of attraction is that which is like to itself attracts. And therefore the earth is the most matter around us. And so where our physical matter is mostly attracted to the earth. But the thing is, it also applies to our thoughts. All right, so that's law of attraction. That's one of the fractal mechanics. Really important to understand. Another one is this concept of momentum. This is so key, momentum. So when you first start pushing a car, it's really hard to push, right? It's like really fucking heavy. And then as you keep pushing it, it gets easier and easier and easier to push that car. And then if you keep pushing it, at a certain point, it's like you're hardly even pushing the car. It's just rolling, right? Mm-hmm. That concept applies to everything. It applies to your thoughts. This is the reason that momentum is the reason that some people are able to achieve everything they've ever wanted, and some people struggle with it. It's because there's resistance. It's like some people are trying to go, but they have the brakes on. And some people completely let go of the brakes. They have no resistance, and they just go, and they're building the momentum. So momentum is one of the operative words in the universe. You can allow momentum to build in any direction with your focus. And understanding this is understanding infinite power. And the last thing I'll say is Abraham talks about how after 68 seconds, as few as 68 seconds of pure thought on one subject, you will have built enough momentum to manifest that subject in the next 24 hours. And this is so powerful. Because you realize, like, this is why our culture is shifting our focus all the time. Like, oh, commercial. Like, everybody's so, like, focused on little things like here, there.
Everyone's attention span is so short these days.
Totally. And it's because humans have literally infinite potential for creation. We have the power that creates worlds behind our fingertips if only we know how to harness it. And momentum and allowing or a lack of resistance is how we do it. So this is the most exciting time to be alive ever. And I am so excited to be focused on the secret space program and universal mechanics, all these things that are like gold that are applying everywhere. And I'm so grateful to be able to bring this perspective forward and bring more momentum to these subjects into our collective. And furthermore, I love everything you two are doing. And I'm so excited to help you guys in any way I can going forward to expand your message and also just, help the collective start to understand these really, really big concepts, because this is literally the bridge into galactic humanity. That's what we are being right now.
I agree. I agree 100%. And we thank you for coming on and spreading your word and bringing up these topics. Your research dives into stuff in a way that no one else looks into it. And if anyone's listening, there's a lot to gain from what you said. I learned a lot tonight. I'm sure Aaron did too. And I'm excited to see what you have coming up in the future with Michael Sala and everything you have going. Keep it up. And thanks again for coming on.
Yes. I love you guys so much. And for anyone listening, check out the Cosmic Embassy on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter. Also, we go to festivals and events all around the world, and we set up a tea house called the Cosmic Embassy, and we talk about all this stuff, and we make music in this direction, intuitive music in this direction. It's a really, really special time. So if you ever get a chance, anyone listening, to attend a Cosmic Embassy at a festival or event, I highly recommend it. It's a life-changing experience. Check out the Cosmic Embassy.
Yeah, check it out, everybody. All right. I guess we're going to go ahead and wrap this up. Thanks, Joseph. We'll definitely have to do this again sometime.
Definitely.
All right. See you guys next time.
Yes. Thank you, Joseph, for coming on. It's been a pleasure.
Yes.
It's been beautiful.
Thank you. Love you guys. Until we meet again. Well, here's the thing I want to say to you guys, just a little message to you guys, is that this is the most important subject matter on the planet right now. And as you continue to go forward and build momentum in this direction, this is literally historic, you guys. And I really want to express that to you and really get that in your mind. Like, this is historic, and you guys, anybody who's creating a platform for this kind of information, this shit is literally going to be in the history books of the future. So don't have any doubt. Don't have any doubt in your mind that this will be listened to. This will be listened to by extraterrestrials. This will be listened to by people like 1,000 years in the future as a historical document. Like, this is going to be listened to in so many different ways and places and methods. And so I just want to say that because that's how I've been going forward with my videos. And it actually is really good for your momentum. It's like, I don't even care if anybody watches it right this moment, because I know in the long term, like, if I'm putting out gold, like, it's gold, like, it's lasting. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
That's fantastic. And thanks for the compliment, because
thank you so much.
We definitely have similar goals as far as getting the information out there. It's a passion, and I want something I've been wanting to do for a long time, and there's not many podcasts really doing this right now, so it's kind of something a little different, you know.
Totally.
So anyway, this has been awesome.
Totally. Yeah, I'm excited to do more with you guys.
Yeah, definitely.
Same.
We're excited.
Thank you so much for coming on, man. It's been amazing.
Yeah, I want to encourage you guys to just keep going forward and have that confidence of the reason momentum is such a operative and key thing to understand is you guys can achieve literally anything, like anything. All you have to do is not doubt it and just allow the momentum to grow. Like, just keep putting stuff out, keep putting stuff out, keep putting stuff out, keep putting stuff out. Be easy about it. Have fun about it, because that means you don't have resistance. If you're feeling good, feeling fun, that means the energy's flowing. Yeah, exactly. Dude, next time we do this, I'll tell you guys about my story from the last 2 years. It's pretty incredible. Like, I left everything in Florida. I just left everything in Florida and went to Eclipse of Disclosure. Like, I left my
I was at Eclipse of Disclosure, by the way.
I wonder if we met there. Or probably saw each other.
We probably saw each other, but I remember seeing one of your YouTube videos you uploaded. I think you were still in Mount Shasta when you recorded it, actually.
Yep.
Well, the thing about this is we can have you on and all of the guests on again and again, because that's how podcasts work, you know?
Totally. Yeah, I mean, I basically, and I'll flesh it out whenever we talk again, but just to give you guys a teaser, I went out to Eclipse of Disclosure with like $100 to my name, like nothing. And at that point, I didn't have a camera. I didn't have anything. I just knew I just knew this is all I wanted to do, man. And so I just completely surrendered to the universe. And I got a plane ticket and I went to Eclipse of Disclosure. And after Eclipse of Disclosure, I had no plan. I didn't go back to Florida. I literally stayed there. Like, everyone left the event, and I was alone. I was alone in that little town by myself, like, no fucking clue what I was doing. And I was just completely surrendered, like, threw my hands up to the universe saying, like, guide me. And I started, like, meeting up with random people that I'd never met at coffee shops and getting them to take me places. And it ended up with me meeting, like, these epic people, just totally surrendered. And my life is just completely blown up since then. I have, like, everything I want, and, like, everything's fleshed out. And now I'm making all these videos, and I've got a really nice camera, and I want for nothing. And it's all because I completely surrendered to the universe and just trusted that I was on the right path. And the universe just kept confirming.
That's definitely going to have to be repeated. That's a great story, and people need to hear stuff like that, because that's the stuff.
I might have to include that in the podcast, because I'm still recording, by the way.
That's the real.
I might have to splice that in there.
Then splice in the part when he said that we're making history too.
Oh yeah. That too, yeah.
It's just splice it in like it's a teaser for the next one, because then people are gonna be like, oh shit, I want to hear that.
Yeah. That'll be the promo video for the next one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's great because that's the real stories that people can relate to. That's the stuff that motivates people, hearing stuff like that.
Totally.
Yeah.
That's that personal stuff. Like,
Exactly.
I had no idea what I was doing, but I knew I was on the right path. And I knew law of attraction was real. So I completely surrendered, and the universe kept bringing me more and more signs and more people, and like just can't even tell you, like synchronicity after synchronicity after synchronicity, leading to more and more opportunities, leading to this incredible, stable, abundant state that I'm in right now.
Wow.
Wow. Yeah.
That's
It is.
And meeting all these people that were just like they were just people on the internet not long ago, you know, like Michael Sala and Corey Good and David Wilcock, and all these people were just people on the internet. And now, like, I know them personally. I've met them multiple times. They know me by name and face, and like all of this happened because I just completely surrendered and was like, this is all I want to do. This is all that matters to me. Like, I have no logical plan. Like, there's no logic to what I'm doing, but I know it's the right path. So I'm just going to surrender and just walk down it.
No logic is the secret to the universe.
Yep.
Exactly.
All right, I'm going to go. I love you guys.
Love you. See you later.
Love you, man. Thank you so much.
Yeah, smooches. We'll talk soon.